Hello, and welcome to this overview on how you can integrate our Shiny applications with SAS Visual Analytics. Let us take a look, looking at the end product first, and then walking our way backwards on all the technical elements. Let's get started. So, we are starting things off in the final SAS Visual Analytics report, where we have a combined report that has elements from SAS Visual Analytics and in our Shiny application. As an example, up here we have a SAS button bar that if we click it, it filters down the data that is sent to our Shiny application in the background. And the Shiny application is what you see down here. So this text, the data has 121 rows and 5 columns, and also the table come from Shiny. Now, this is especially helpful if you have an environment where you need to have user-based authentication and specifically row-level security that you can now realize with your Shiny application by simply integrating it with SAS Visual Analytics. So let's walk back step by step of what's going on here. For this, we are going to open up the editing mode of our report. In here, we have, of course, a connected data source, and in the linked repository in the description, all the files to recreate these examples are, of course, linked. Now, you can see here our data source that we have created and added, and then in the center, we have, of course, our button bar, but more interestingly, we have our data-driven content object. You can find these by going to the data pane and looking for data-driven content and then dragging and dropping it to your report. But in this case, I've already added it to my report. And then if we scroll all the way to the bottom, here you can find the link to my running our Shiny application. Now, of course, you have to make sure that SAS Visual Analytics can reach that endpoint, that web server where your Shiny application is running. But other than that, you don't have to set up anything specifically. Next, we assign the roles that we want to make use of in our Shiny application. So, for example, let's say we are no longer interested in the model, we can just remove that column and automatically everything will be refreshed. Or the other way around, let's add a couple of more columns to our report like this, and again everything will be refreshed. Now, this can of course be saved and then shared like usual, so you as a consumer have to have access to the report, the data, and then you can also apply row-level security on that data. Now let's take a look at the Shiny side of things. Here we are inside of our studio, just a web version deployed on Kubernetes. And the heart of this is, of course, our Shiny application. Let me navigate to that in my file system here. And here is that same folder that you will find in the linked repository. Now, in here you will find 3 R files and a www folder, which contains a JavaScript file and some styling. Let us start off with the server.r, which is the file I have already opened. Now, here I initialize my Shiny server, and then I add an observe event. This is here to receive the data that is sent from JavaScript or SAS Visual Analytics to our Shiny application. So anytime we get new input, we can check and run this function to update what is displayed in our Shiny application. In this case, I check that we actually got data back, and then I extract the row count and the number of columns. If we look back, this is what's then displayed in this text up top here. And this is then rendered. There's just some else if statements just so that it looks a bit nicer if you pass in less than 2 columns. I don't want the plural s as an example. And then the text is rendered using the render text function that you probably know and love from our Shiny. And next up, we extract the labels from the columns, so what are the columns named, and then we turn the actual data into a data frame that we can work with inside of R however we like. We are of course not limiting to, as in this case, render out a table. You could now do anything else you can do with a data frame in R, visualize it, make it interactive, how you see fit within your R Shiny application. And the second part of this, here's the kind of receiving end in R Shiny. Let's look at the sending piece that actually connects Visual Analytics with the R Shiny. And that is this simple 15-line JavaScript that adds an event listener to the HTML and JavaScript stack to react to an onMessage event, meaning anytime it gets an update from SAS Visual Analytics, it will call this onMessage function. And this onMessage function, all it does, it sends that data to R Shiny. Above it, I also put in a console log statement that you can reference if you want to see what's actually being sent in between those applications by opening up the browser developer console inside of SAS Visual Analytics. And the final piece is, of course, the UI part where I just have a container. You have to make sure to include the actual JavaScript into your Shiny application, and then I just have a target for the output text and a table. So that's it. If we look at the repository, there is a README that takes you step by step through all the required setup processes and also links you the full R Shiny application and also the report I just showcased that also again includes some setup steps in it. I hope you found this quick and easy tutorial on how to integrate R Shiny with SAS Visual Analytics helpful, and if you have any use cases, leave them down in the comments. See you next time. Bye bye.